Hello everybody, my name is Kevbotomy and welcome back to another Minecraft Redstone video. And my question for you today is, how many ducks are there? Alright guys, so if you found yourself clicking on this video, you're probably asking yourself in some sense, what is Shulker box binary, and why do I seem to particularly like it so much? So, it's a very good question, and it's honestly a piece of redstone technology that I feel goes underutilized in the redstone community, and I'm happy to bring it a little bit more into the spotlight if possible. So in today's video, that is what I'm going to be checking out. I'm going to go through what Shulker box binary is, what it could potentially be useful for. Hint hint, I'm in the display world and I am using it to build a display, so we will cover that later on in the video. But for now, we're going to take a look at just what is Shulker box binary. So guys, before I get into my explanation of what Shulker box binary is, I would like to announce a new member of the Kevbotomy team. His name is Elfie, and he is the most adorable kitty cat ever. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have already heard about this, but Mr. Elfie is now sitting on my shoulders, so if you hear the occasional purr or jingle, that is where that is coming from. I'm sorry if it disrupts the audio in any way. However, he is the squishiest, best kitty ever. So, with that out of the way, we're going to quickly set the time today. Oh, now he's back on my lap. What a cute little kitty. So, we're going to set the time today. Oh, apparently... There we are. So, what is Shulker box binary? As you see in front of me, we have a Shulker box. Now, the first part about this Shulker box binary is some important features of the Shulker box itself. So, if we hit this button up here, you can see the Shulker box is broken by the piston and put into the hopper. And if we hit this button here, it is dispensed by a dispenser. Now this is important because if you have a Shulker box there, like so, and you were to have items inside of it with the hopper underneath, those items can be filtered out and detected by other systems. So with that said, basically the Shulker box, with its capacity of 27 items, can effectively transfer 27 bits in a single item. So this is super useful for multi-output systems where maybe you want most of them off at once, but at specific times you want them to turn off. You don't want to build a whole dedicated redstone system just for each piece of componentry. With this kind of system, you could in theory hook up one output to each set of binary distributions. So I'm going to get into the binary distribution in a moment here. And basically what that is how we get multi-output systems. So I'm going to switch back to the other world real quick and we'll take a look at that. So guys, here we are back in the Shulker box display world, and that is because I want to show you what these Shulker box distribution systems are. So this is one right in front of me. This is designed to be 4 high tileable, so in theory you could stack these one on top of each other, and if you were to look at any given block and go up 4 blocks, there would be another one of that block all the way up for 9 layers. So it's a pretty cool system. I'm very happy with it, and this is finally an iteration that works very well. I'm super happy with it. So what this does is it takes the contents of one Shulker box and it distributes them in the proper order to 9 different outputs. Then it will suck those first 9 through, and it will repeat the process until the Shulker box is empty. which, since the shulker box holds 27 items, is conveniently enough to fill every single output in the display. So, one shulker box will provide 3 sets of outputs, and then you stack this 9 times, and you can get 81 outputs approximately every 2 seconds. I'll get into the math a little bit later, but this is the system right here. We've got... It's essentially Ilmango's furnace array. If you don't know who Ilmango is and haven't watched his Redstone content, I highly suggest it. I have learned so much from this guy. I will leave a link down in the description for you if you need it. But anyway, without Ilmango, none of this would be possible. So basically we have Ilmango's furnace array, but it's been modified to be shorter. His furnace array was 22 hoppers long. This was in order to basically put items into furnaces as fast as they could be taken out by hopper speed. So it's a very slick system, and I have in a sense modified it in order to do what I want to with the binary. So we know that we're taking the items out of the shulker box, distributing them along the line, and we know that it's binary, so presumably we're getting either a 1 or a 0 for either one of these. However, how are we doing this? How are we programming a 1 or a 0 into a shulker box? That is what I am going to explain next. So this simple setup right in front of us will really get to the meat and potatoes of how these Redstone shulker box binary systems work. So as you can see on the top, the lamp is not lit. On the bottom, the lamp is lit. And as you can see, the comparators are giving different signal strengths. Now, if we take a look into the hoppers, you can see on one, all we have is a single quartz slab, all lonely by himself, a single stackable item, and that will give a 1 signal strength output. However, if we look in the other hopper, we have a shulker box. Now, shulker boxes happen to be a non-stackable item, and as such, they take up the entire slot of the hopper. Now that means that they take up all of the redstone outputs that could possibly be held by that spot, and in this case, the hopper only has 5 slots. So, with there being 15 different possible redstone signal strengths, and 1 box filled, that means we get a signal strength of 3 coming out. So this is how we get a binary output. We can use either a stackable item or a non-stackable item in order to determine whether or not it's a 0 or a 1. So that is how we can store binary information inside of a shulker box, and then we're able to transport effectively 27 bits of information as fast as we like. Alright guys, so now we have switched back to the display world, because what use is transporting 27 items inside of a shulker box if a redstone line is faster? So that is where this contraption comes in, and we're going to be crediting another member of the SciCraft server for this build. So if you didn't know, Ilmango, who I mentioned before, he plays on the SciCraft server, and the SciCraft server is full of a bunch of extremely talented technical players, and they inspire so much of what I build, and here is just another example of this. We have an instant dropper line designed by Gnembon MC, and it's kind of similar to one I was trying to design, but all of the mechanics, the way everything is implemented, is just so much sleeker than I ever could have come up with on my own. So huge shoutouts to Gnembon for inspiring this design, and the way I have designed it is so that it is for high tileable, as is the rest of the display, meaning that we can use these convenient systems to send one shulker box down 9 different lines, all simultaneously, all instantly, with the simple update of this rail. So overall, it's really cool, and this is what makes transferring 27 bits so intriguing, because with an instant dropper line, in theory, we could send this 27 bits infinitely far in a single redstone tick. Maybe discounting the tick overflow stuff that happens if you have too many actions in one tick, but barring that, this can go infinitely far, instantly fast, and that has a lot of implications for signal transfers. So, with that said, it's one thing to be able to transfer that information, but it's another to be able to use it. And using that information is where the aforementioned Shulker box distributors come in. So once again, if you missed it before, the Shulker boxes will come in from that instant dropper line, and they'll instantly start sending their items through, giving you 27 outputs in approximately 6 seconds, so not too bad considering the whole thing can be sent across a large quantity of space very, very quickly. Alright guys, so it's occurred to me that I've done a lot of talking and not a lot of showing, so in front of me I've got a Shulker box. It is filled to the brim with a bunch of non-stackable items and a bunch of different stackable items. Now this is actually very important, because if the stackable items could stack with each other, then they would not maintain their item order as they move through the system. So one solution is to use a bunch of different stackable items so they don't stack, or another option would be to rename a bunch of one item so you could have a consistent item, but that's a lot of work to rename them. So likely with the system I'm building, I'm gonna have to do the renaming part. However, for this demonstration, I can just use different items. So if we take a look at the contents of this Shulker box, I've got a little mock-up behind me, so we can put the Shulker box into this system over here, and as we can see, there is nothing in there. We've got a Shulker box loaded into the output system. This is where it gets filled up and broken once it is full. And if we were to place a Shulker box on this side, this is the input side, we would start to see it function. Now, right here is where we will see the outputs, so if we were to take a look at the inside of the Shulker box, we should see outputs on wherever there is a shovel and off wherever there is not. So if you want to take a look and check for yourself, that is fine, but we're going to go ahead and place the Shulker box into the system, and we're going to go look. So uh-oh. It would appear... I forgot to load the system with the items. So the way this works is I used an RS NOR latch, and the RS NOR latch gets reset every single cycle that the binary goes through. However, without items in the droppers, it makes it mighty difficult for the RS NOR latch to function. So I'm just going to quickly replace these items, and we'll get on with another demonstration. So as we look in our output hopper here, we can see that there is indeed a new Shulker box full of items, so at least from our last test we can check and see that they were in fact consistent. And if you were to screenshot this and take a look at it, you would see that the items are all in the exact same order. So that is extremely promising. The contraption is definitely still working. We have got our new replacement box. Whoa! That is not something I've ever seen before. Apparently my timings might be a little bit off, apparently. Let's see, we want to break that. That wants to be there. And we have the Shulker box automatically placed. So That is a good thing, but that was also extremely odd. However, we're going to try again. Hope that doesn't happen, or we might have to check out a redesign here. However, we've got our shulker box, we're ready to go, and now that our outputs are ready to be hooked up, well, they are hooked up, we can actually see that we get the outputs corresponding. There we are, that's exactly what we wanted to see. And then they will change, and then they will change one more time. That is perfect. So that's exactly what I was hoping to see. This is one use case, so this is essentially one layer of the display. There's a little bit more that goes into putting it all together. However, this is pretty much how the system functions, so if you want to see that display, make sure to definitely hit that like button and comment below. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because I plan on making this display my 1,000 subscriber special. Hopefully kinks like that weird soul sand business. See, it worked correctly this time. So that was really weird, however, that was the only time I've seen it. Of course, it's because I'm recording. However, I'm going to show you a couple other use cases for this. Alright, I have made some simple modifications. Namely, I have replaced these droppers with hoppers. This will create, instead of an RS NOR latch, a monostable circuit, which is much more suited to the speaker output. So here is a basic, it's not the final design for the speaker, however it is a basic mock-up of essentially the ideas I'll be using to make it. So we've got the same kind of shulker box output, but the timing is staggered so that we can have a note every redstone tick. So with the actual speaker system, it'll be optimized for a consistent playing time, hopefully as fast as possible, but for now this is what I've got to show you, so we'll chuck in a shulker box, and let's see. Perfect. Excellent. Alright, that's exactly what we wanted to see there. The timings are all staggered, all the notes played when they should, and if we were to go and check the output hoppers, all of the shulker boxes are in the correct order, so everything is working perfectly. That is how it would work basically for the display and for the speaker. And now let's check out one other idea I had for this output system, which would be a redstone door. Alright guys, so for the last demonstration of this video, I decided to go for a piston door. Now, when you're building a piston door, you typically will have some sort of piston layout, and different pistons need to be powered at different times. And so I went for, just for demonstration purposes, a 3x3, and in the end I only needed 4 different inputs. So we've got this top guy here, it controls the top and the 2 sides, and then the other 3 inputs control this little section at the bottom. So if we want to see the door in action, how we actually open and close it is using these here shulker boxes I have in my inventory. Now in most cases we would have some sort of repackaging system, but for the sake of simplicity I've just built up this little tiny guy here. The items are just going to be shot out of the droppers and left to the spawn. I don't really care. So we're going to just see this door in action. So what I'm going to do is to close it, we're going to take this blue shulker box, we're going to plop it on that hopper, and we're going to see that the door closes, and right along there you can see that there are different pistons being extended. Those are monostable circuits which power these dropper lines, which go to the appropriate inputs. So as we can see, the door closed, and now we're going to break the shulker box, put on the pink one, and we can see the door open. So same thing, we get a nice little sequence of block retractions. You can see that all of the pistons are being powered in the right order, and eventually we have an open door. So this could be scaled up to any amount of inputs you needed. I suppose once you hit a certain amount, you might need multiple shulker box systems to control the whole amount of inputs. However, for anything up to 27 inputs, one shulker box will work per round of inputs, if you will. So that was that in action. We can play around with it a little bit more as I finish up here. But that's all I've got for you guys today. As you can see, the shulker box system is quite interesting. You can use stackable and non-stackable items as a source of binary in order to control the inputs for various redstone systems. So, if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope to see you next time in my next video. Bye!